Hello everyone. In this video, we'll talk about the rows between clause, which is often present in any analytical or OLAP function you will use. So we'll not talk much about the window functions like some max, min, lead, lag in this video. For that, probably I'll create another video. But the focus of this video is entirely on the rows between clause. We'll see what all options are available, what does it mean, and what I have seen is that it's not only the beginners, even the people who've been working on SQL for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, even they get confused, right? How to use proper rows between and analytical functions. And trust me, if you can master this window function thing, then many of the complex logic you can simply solve it with a single line of SQL code. So just to give you an example, like recently I was working on a project where I did some optimization, right? And the requirement was I wanted to measure it. So I just queried the control table. Control table was having the information like, okay, job one ran, start time this, end time this, status success, like that. So my requirement was there, if I can, whatever the optimization I'm putting into production and the job is running on daily basis, it's a ETL job. And now what is the time, right? So I can simply do end time minus start time and get the overall duration of that job. I can do it manually, but say if I have to do it for hundreds of or thousands of job, and I have to consider last 7 days, what is the difference in the duration, right? So I can use OLAP function there, and I used it there where I was just comparing my current row duration, execution time, and I was just doing minus with the previous row, which was yesterday if it's a daily job, right? And that was giving me the result. So in a single line of code, I was able to solve it. I don't know if if I haven't used OLAP function there. I cannot even imagine how many lines of code I have to write to solve that. So my point here is, let's focus on rows between in this video, and this is a very important topic. Some may consider it as an advanced SQL, but if you master it, many of the complex business logic you can implement in a single line in SQL, right? So let's start. What exactly is rows between? So in rows between, right, you specify the range of the SQL, right? You in your result set, say there are n number of records, and now you want to determine what all rows or the records will participate in this operation. So you specify the range of the rows which will uh, participate in operation using rows between clause. So we have basically three options here in rows between. One is unbounded preceding. So say you are at the fifth row right now, your cursor is at the fifth row. So if you say unbounded preceding, it means all the rows before that, like 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, will participate in the operation. Similarly, you have 10 rows and you are at fifth row right now, and you specify the option as unbounded following. So in that case, all the following rows, that is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, will come and participate in the operation, whatever the window operation you are using, min, max, sum, anything, that those rows will come and participate. And then there is an option for current row. So you are at fifth row, you want to do some operation on that particular row, you specify it as current row, right? So these three are the options we have for rows between, and then you can combine it, right? Like you can specify unbounded preceding till current row, or you can specify unbounded preceding and unbounded following, which is the default range if you don't specify anything in most of the RDBMS, including Teradata. And if you want to specify some specific rows, right, I don't want all the previous rows, I just want last 5 rows and the current row to participate. So you can change that unbounded keyword with the number of rows you want to consider. So say I want 5 following rows, so I'll, instead of saying unbounded following, I'll use 5 following. So this will consider only the next 5 rows for the operation. So that's the theory part. We'll look into some examples that will hopefully make things more clear, right? So let's quickly create a dummy table now. So how dummy table will help is, we'll insert some dummy data into this table, right? And then we'll apply all these rows between function into it, and we'll see what is the output. So in this case, I have created one dummy table with just one column in it, and SID, which is surrogate ID or anything you want. So I'm inserting 10 records into this table. So the values are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In real world scenario, the things may be little more complex, but to keep it simple here, for simplicity of understanding, let's keep it like this only. right? So I have 10 rows in my table, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Those are the values. Now case 1 is I want to read the previous row value, right? So say I am at row number 5 and I want to read the value. What was the value at row number 4, right? Which is my previous value. So in this case I just have to specify one preceding and one preceding. It means that it will only consider one preceding value, right? So let me just run it and show you the output. So you can see here, right? So for 1 there is no preceding value. 1 is the first row, right? So there is no preceding value, so it is coming as null. For 2 the preceding value was 1, so it is coming as 1, right? Similarly for 8 the preceding value is 7, so that's why you see the value here is coming as 7, right? So that's how, if I want to read just the previous value, I can specify rows between one preceding and one preceding. It means like it is inclusive, right? So one preceding and one preceding means I am basically reading just one preceding row, that's it, and I'm not considering my current row also in this clause, right? So it will return my previous row value, right? So you can see here for 1 it is null because that's the start and there's no row before 1, so output is null. For every other row, like for 10 the value is 9 because in my previous row the value was 9, so that has come here. So that's how you can read the previous row value using rows between one preceding and one preceding. Now let's move on to the next case where I want to read all the previous rows. So for in all these examples the analytical function I am using is sum. It can be anything, it can be lead, lag, right, count, max, average, anything you want, but for in all these examples I'll be using sum as the OLAP function, and the focus, as I said before, will be on rows between clause rather than the OLAP function, right? So in this case too, right, I want to read all the previous rows. So in the previous example I saw that I was just considering my previous row and I was doing a sum on it. So previous row, one single row, whatever the value, that was coming as the sum output. In this case I am considering all my previous rows. So the clause is between unbounded preceding and one preceding. So let me just run it and see the output. So you can see here, right, for 1 obviously it is null because nothing is before 1. For 2 it was 1, so the output is 1. For 3 there are two preceding rows, right, 1 and 2. So if I sum it 1 and 2, the output is 3. Similarly for 5, the preceding rows are 1 2 3 4, and if I do the sum of it, 4 3 7 9 and 1 10, so the output is 10, right? So in this example we can see that we have considered all the previous rows for calculating, for doing some operation, and that output is for the current row, right? So like for 3 the previous rows are 2 and 1, so what is the sum of 2 and 1? It is 3, so the output here is 3. The clause I have used here is rows between unbounded preceding and one preceding. It means if I am here, one preceding is 6 and unbounded preceding is all the previous rows, so it will consider till here, and that's the sum, and it will do the sum which is 21, and it will come here 21. Okay, hope this case is clear. So we'll move to the next case, which is case 3. So now we have used like between one preceding and unbounded preceding. In some cases we may want to consider just the previous two rows, right? So what will be the query for it? So just to read the previous two rows, we can specify between two preceding and one preceding, right? So let me just run this query and see the output, and then we can discuss more on the output. So here you will see, rather than going for the unbounded preceding, I am just considering the previous two rows. So for 4, the previous two rows are 3 and 2, and what is the sum of 3 and 2? 5. So the output has come as 5. Similarly for 6, the previous two rows are 5 and 4. So what is the sum of 5 and 4? It is 9. So that's why we got output as 9 here. Similarly for 10, right, the previous two rows are 9 and 8, and what is the sum of 9 and 8? 17. So the output here is 17. So rather than specifying the unbounded preceding, I have specified two preceding. It means the starting point will be two rows before the current row, and till where, so I am specifying the range, right? So two preceding and one preceding means if I am here, two preceding is till here and one preceding is here. So I'm just considering my window becomes only these two rows, right? So that's how I can read the previous two rows. Let's move to the next case. So in this case I want to read the next row, right? So right now what examples we have seen is where I am standing in current row and I want to read data from my previous rows. It can be unbounded preceding or two preceding, right? I can limit the number of rows. Now let's see if I want to read the next row, the row I am yet to process, right? So for this the keyword is following, right? We have discussed before also there are unbounded preceding and bounded following. So in this example we'll use following keyword and we'll specify, since I have to read just the next row, I'm specifying one following and one following. So let me run this and see the output. So you can see here, right? For 1 the next row is 2, so the output has come as 2. For 6 the next row is 7, so the value has come as 7. For 10 there is no next row, hence the value has come here as null, right? So I have specified one following and one following. It means wherever I am right now, I just want to consider the very next row and that row only. I am not doing unbounded following, right? So guys, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but if you don't specify anything, by default it is unbounded preceding and unbounded following, right? Also for the range, it should always be in the order from start to end. So it's like if you are here and you want to create a window, it should start from here and then here, right? It should not be like you start from here and then you cannot go backwards, right? So you have to, whatever the range you are giving, if you are giving say unbounded preceding, unbounded following, or two preceding and two following, then its preceding should always come first and then it should come, then the following should come. It cannot be opposite, right? That's how we define the range from min to max, right? So that's, in this example we saw, if I just want to read the next row, I'll use one following and one following, and this will give me this output, right? So in the next case, what I'm trying to do here is I want to read all the following rows. So point to note here is that I am not considering my current row right now. I am just considering all the following rows, right? So for this, the clause is rows between one following and unbounded following. So, okay. So see here, when I run this, for 9, what is the next row? 10, right? So I'll get the value as 10. For 8, what is the next row? The next row is 9, and since I gave one following and unbounded following, it will consider 9 and 10 both, and it will do a sum, and the output is 19. Similarly for 7, it will start from 8 and it will go till 10, right? So 10, 9, 19, 19 plus 8 is 27, so 27 is the output, right? So hope this use case is also clear to you, right? Where I am considering my next row and unbounded following, which means all the rows which are yet to come, right? I'll apply operation on those rows. So similarly, if I just want to read the next two rows, I don't want to read all the unbounded following rows, I just want to read next two rows, then what will be my query? So in that case, I just have to specify rows between one following and two following. So let me run this and see the output. Okay, so here you see, right? For I have specified one following and two following. It means if I am here, one following is 2 and two following is 3. So if I do sum of 2 and 3, the value is 5. Similarly, if I am at 6, one following is 7, two following is 8. So 7 plus 8 is 15. So that's why the output is 15. If I come here 9, one following is 10 and there is no two following, right? That's the end of the data set for me. So it will just add this 10 and the output will come as 10. For this row, right, this is the last row in the data set and there are no following rows. So the output has come as null, right? So hope this is clear. In this example, we just read the next two rows. We did a sum operation on that and that's the output. Okay, case 7. Now, so far what we have seen is we have considered the preceding rows, we have considered the following rows, we have considered unbounded preceding, we have considered unbounded following, and also we have specified some limit by specifying some number, either one following, two preceding, like that. Now I want to consider my current row as well in the calculation, right? So for that, as I mentioned before, the keyword is current row. So let me run this example and then we'll discuss the output about this one. So in this, what I'm trying to do is I want to include my current row as well in my OLAP operation, right? So if I'll run this, okay. So you'll see here, I have specified range as my current row and two following. So if I am sitting here, my current row is 1 and two following 2 and 3 will come. And if I'll do sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3, I'll get the value as 6. Similarly, if I am here at 5, I'm specifying my range as current row, which is 5, then 2 following 6 plus 7. So if I'll do 5 plus 6 plus 7, I'll get 18, and that is the output. Similarly, for 10, there is no further rows, right? But since I have specified the current row, it will consider this 10 as well, and the sum of 10 plus nothing is 10, right? Similarly, for 7, it will consider 7, 8, 9, and the output is 24. So that's how I can include my current row as well. So you can, one point to note here is I have specified current row and 2 following. I have not specified 2 following and current row, right? The point here is be very careful while you are specifying the range, right? Following will be like the end of the range, and preceding will be like start of the range, and somewhere in between the current row will lie. So whenever you will specify the range, right, for between, we know in usual SQL as well, between clause you should always give min to max range, right? So similarly we have to follow here also. If you are specifying current row, then it is current row and 2 following. If it would have been preceding, right, then in that case I would have given preceding and then current row, which probably I think is the next example, right? So here you will see the current row actually comes later and preceding comes before. So let me run this query. So in this use case, right, I'm doing a sum of all the rows till my current row, right? So before till my current row, I'm doing sum of that. So if I'll run this query, you see here, right, I have specified rows between unbounded preceding and current row. I have not written current row and unbounded preceding. So be very careful. I have seen many people doing this mistake. So be very careful. Whenever you are specifying a range in SQL, it should always be from min to max, right? So let's quickly look at the output. In this case, what we are doing is we have specified rows between unbounded preceding, so it will consider all the previous rows, and current row including my current row. So for 1, the sum is 1 only, right? For 2, it will be 1 plus 2, 3. For 3, it will be 2 plus 1 plus 3, which is 6. For 10, it will consider all these rows and the output is 55, right? So that's how, like, we specify the range, right, by using the rows between clause, and we have option of preceding, following, and current row, and we can use unbounded preceding, unbounded following, or else if we want to limit it, we can specify the numbers as well in place of unbounded keyword. So in this video, I just wanted to cover all these 8 cases, right, and hope it makes sense. I'll repeat, it is very important to understand this concept, because with this, many of the complex logic you can just solve it in a single line of SQL. And trust me, I have seen people with 6, 7, 8 years of experience who struggle to write queries using OLAP functions. I have seen that. And if you are not using OLAP functions in some of the business use case, you may end up writing a very long complex SQL query, which may not even give you the right result, right? So you must understand rows between clause, must understand the Windows function if you want to advance into SQL. So that's it, guys. I wanted to cover only this in this post. I'll share the link of this blog post in the description. If you have any comments or feedback, feel free to leave a comment. All right. Thank you. Good day.